How cultural context and film elements combine to create cult films. According to Christopher McKittrick, the term cult film specifically refers to movies that describe being much less successful financially, nevertheless have passionate fans. Most cult films are low-budget production, bad acting, or cheap special effects. According to FilmSite, cult films are usually strange, quirky, or surreal, with weird, unique, or cartoony characters or plots. They are often considered controversial because they step outside standard narrative and technical conventions. The introduction of midnight screening in the movie theaters in the 1970s also aided the growth of cult films, and the forgotten low-budget film had a chance to come back to life, as McKittrick says, that cult movies so bad they are good. In this comparative study, I will explore how historical and social context through the use of mise-en-scène, camera angle, editing, costumes in Freaks 1932 and the Rocky Horror Picture Show 1970 combined to create cult classics. The movie Freaks describes the story of a dwarf, Hans, who inherited a fortune, and the artist Cleopatra, who discovers it and tries to marry him. She is secretly planning to steal his fortune and escape with her lover, the strongman Hercules. When Hans's friends work out what's going on, they group together and create a brutal revenge that teaches Hercules and Cleopatra what it truly means to be a freak. Looking at the historical context, freaks were common in early 20th century circuses and were divided on three categories by Barnum: born freaks, exotic freaks, self-made freaks. Once the person looked different from the other one, he is a freak. According to Andrea Favile, citizens with disabilities often were treated like charity cases, tragedies, or freaks. Unable to support themselves in the United States' manufacturing or agriculture-based economy, people with disabilities frequently had to cage and live on the streets. Looking into the social context, Prussia Aug says that the curiosity of science created a special place as freak show circus for people with the unfamiliar appearance of local humans from around the world. People who were called freaks were not socially accepted and were sent into museums and circuses to be a part of amusement. When the film Freaks were released, it was considered immoral to show such explicit content. It was cut by nearly half an hour to make it suitable for New York audience and destroyed Browning's career. It was eventually banned in the UK from 1932 to 1963. Browning said, "Freaks is the product of the complete free range, making the film that is both horrific and deeply personal." But his creative thinking was not accepted by the society until 1962. Meanwhile, the Rocky Horror Picture Show shows how Brett and Janet discovered the mention of a transgender scientist while stuck in a flat tire during a storm. Brett and Janet meets a house full of wild characters, and Frankenfurter reveals his latest creation, a muscular man named Rocky. Strange characters are actually extraterrestrials who, once Brett and Janet were corrupted, returned to their home planet. Looking at the historical context, the concept of sex change implied that sex or gender fluidity was possible and that individuals could choose their sex. Transitions were not medically possible or even available in the UK until the 1950s. According to Sophie Nepkral, in 1951, Roberta Cowell made history of the first known British trans woman to undergo gender reassignment surgery. After the incident, the surgery became more popular in the United Kingdom. From the social context, according to Stephen Dryden, in 1970, Gay Liberation Front manifesto proclaimed that homosexuals who were being oppressed by physical violence and by ideological and psychological attack at every level of social interaction are at last becoming angry. Familiarly, the audience did not accept Sherman's movie because of the conservative attitude of the general public and questions of sexual and gender politics. Sherman had different ideas from the movie, and as he says, the framework is coming from outside of the box rather than inside. At the time, society did not accept the sexual context of the movie only until 1975. In terms of how filmmakers broke the social norms and ethical issues, let us look at some of the film elements they used, like mise-en-scène and camera angles. In Freaks, characters have different heights, but Browning makes most of the participants of the circus to be at the same equal level. As we can see here, the camera is always set on an eye level to point out that the participants are equal between each other and equal with their views. In addition, the mise-en-scène is showing the sets of the circus and gives a deep observational look of the circus performers, but the filmmaker never shows them as audience entertainment. Instead, it's always from the perspective of a backstage where they live. The viewer sees all details that make him feel uncomfortable because of the use of long scene of medium close-ups. It makes the film cult classics because of the broken social stereotypes and norms. Unlike Browning, Sherman decides to break through norms by placing LGBT people higher than Brett and Janet, who has the role of normal people. During the welcoming songs, the camera is set on a high-angle shot from the perspective of transsexual characters. They look down on normal people. Similar to Browning, Sherman also has long observational shots of extraordinary characters, which makes the viewer feel uncomfortable. Such explicit ideas was impossible to watch because of the moral norms, but the film is now named as a cult classic because of Sherman successfully broken social norms about sex and gender and found his fans years later after the release of the film. Furthermore, both of the directors create a juxtaposition of ideologies through editing. In Freaks, there is a visible difference between ideologies is shown through how Cleopatra, the Queen of Air, acts toward other characters and does not relate herself to freaks. As it was mentioned previously, Browning makes all of the characters equals, but Cleo looks down on everyone. For example, when Cleo comes after the performance and meets Hans and Frida, Cleo looks down on Hans and recognizes his in-love eyes. Not only the camera angle helps to show their ideology separation, but also through editing. This shot sequence, where the close-up between Hans and Cleo are shown through different cuts, indicates their social separation as they are no longer occupying by the same frame. However, the next shot, where Hans and Cleo are placed in one frame and being observed by Frida, means that the union between normal people and freaks is possible, which was not accepted by the society. Because of the impossible union, the film found his audience years later, when disabled people started to be accepted as a part of societal norm. In the same way, Sherman shows separation of ideologies between normal and transsexual people through editing. During the welcome dance scene, Brett and Janet feel uncomfortable during the dance. There is a clear separation between ideologies when the cuts are jumping from dancing transsexual to the frame where only Brett and Janet are. They are still not a part of the society, unlike the end, when they become a part of the Rocky Horror Show. Another union between transsexual and normal people the viewer sees because of the editing of the welcome dance. The union is created between the narrator of the story and the dancers. The cut conveys the idea that the normal person also dances and sings just like that transsexual person, and this union helps the film become a cult classic because of the explicit content, which is normal nowadays. In addition, both directors use costumes as a thorough choice to convey the main point of the films, which make it so bad that it's so good. Browning does not dress characters in their performing costumes. He also tries to show the inside beauty of disabled people by dressing them in normal clothing, which sounds unacceptable. However, it seems to be too much for the audience to look at freaks and relate to the idea that they are beautiful. Browning created a juxtaposition of inside and outside beauty. For example, when the pinhead girl came to show up her new dress to the actor who played the human skeleton person, he tells her a lot of compliments. The girl blushes and feels beautiful, which is juxtaposing to her appearance. It's not accepted back in 1930s, but nowadays, people with disabilities are accepted equally in the society, and they are not considered less beautiful. That is why the film has been accepted by modern society and was named cult film. Sherman shows the beauty of the inside in his film too, like Browning. The main point of the movie is not to hide who you are, and transsexual people are also the same as others. However, Sherman shows the extraordinary appearance of transsexuals, which was brought a lot of criticism for the movie. For example, when Frank comes in the greet to new visitors, he is dressed in a very open and extravagant clothing as there are other tenants in the room. Sherman shows that people can identify themselves differently, and it's not a shame to feel different. Even though the film did not succeed after the release, years later, modern society loves to sing these songs and dress up as characters from the film because fans can openly talk about gender and not be scared who they are. This is why the film got to be named a cult classic film. In conclusion, Freaks and the Rocky Horror Picture Show became a cult classics after the change of social morals and ethics that led to a new opportunity of the film's perception. Directors were influenced by historical and social context with understanding that disabled and transsexuals are people who were not accepted by the society. That is why equal or even high camera angles, union of different ideologies, and extraordinary costumes made the audience be critical about the films and forgot it. Yet, when two mentioned societies were accepted and treated equally, both films found their fans, who says that it's important to look equal at each other, be together with normal people in one frame, and dress up as we feel as we are still beautiful.